3 silent reasons for most ended relationships. When a couple breaks up, it can be very difficult and even traumatic to process the ended relationship. In fact, romantic relationships are one of the things that many people in the world care a lot about. It has become scary territory. At the same time, it is something that many believe it is necessary to achieve happiness in life. It's not often that couples sit down to evaluate their issues and then decide it's time to separate. Most breakups happen suddenly for one party. It is often a situation surrounded by conflict, confusion and doubt. The difficult thing about an argument is not defending our opinion. It is knowing what it is. Anne Meroy. Ended relationships with two people who still love each other is something that happens often. Perhaps love is not entirely new. Maybe it doesn't feel like it did at first. But it's still there. When everything ends, you may feel that love more intensely because you can sense the size of the hole the other person leaves in your life. If you really love your partner and want a long-lasting relationship, then it is always best to prevent a breakup. It is important to stay aware and not let toxic, caustic things dissolve the relationship. Among these things, there are 3 factors that are common to ended relationships. They are: excessive criticism leads to terminated relationships. At the beginning of a relationship there is only flattery. But later on many couples come to a point where the opposite happens. Criticism is becoming all too common. This kind of behavior doubt comes from disappointment that creeps in when the wheat bread days are over. Some people complain that their partner is not the prince on the white horse, or the enchanted princess that they fell in love with. What they are really disappointed about is that their fantasy has not come true. They say that the other person has changed. They feel cheated to some extent upon discovering that the other person is not the soulmate they have dreamed of. Your partner is a human being with ordinary needs and unsightly defects. Criticism is important in certain situations, such as at work or in an intellectual discussion. It is not very useful in romantic relationships. You can always choose to accept the other person or not. But if you cannot accept them, you must set them free. Otherwise, it can give rise to a lot of tension. Many broken relationships could have been avoided if we simply work to accept our partner as they are, instead of trying to change him or her. There is a difference between someone not showing us that they love us and someone not showing love in exactly the way we want it to. Defensive behavior. This type of behavior is normal in situations where there are unresolved conflicts. All couples experience problems. All couples experience situations that require forgiveness. But often we don't handle things properly, and therefore difficult feelings accumulate, which continue to cause problems. Defensive behavior can also occur when one partner is extremely insecure and becomes overly dependent on the other. As in the previous case, the result is terrible for both parties. One feels threatened, whether it is real or not. The other feels eternal distrust. The person feels unjustified guilt or tries to control the other's fears. Under these conditions, the couple no longer feels united by love, but by fear. Two people who should support and bring out the best in each other become bitter enemies. They don't trust each other. They protect themselves from the other. At this point, they will have to either confront the problem and find a solution or break up. A breakup could be healthy for both. Conflict-averse behavior. Being conflict-averse is also a kind of defensive behavior. This behavior is expressed in a passive or latent way. The logic is that by ignoring problems, arguments and creating distance, a breakup can be avoided. Perhaps one party is inconsiderate or harmful to the other, but the person on the receiving end remains silent and says nothing. The person knows that it could be the last straw, that it could cause the end of the relationship. In this case, they stay together because of insecurity and fear. Unfortunately, conflict-averse behavior does not resolve conflicts. When you don't solve a problem, it tends to grow, not shrink. Typically, an unresolved problem creates a lot of anxiety. It can also create sadness or even depression. And in the meantime, the problems just keep getting bigger. Staying together is not just about love. One must use one's intelligence to navigate between the problems that arise. If you are interested in keeping love alive and avoiding a breakup, then you must learn to communicate in a loving but direct way. Let go of teenage fantasies. They tend to create more problems than they solve.